Hello everyone, and welcome to this Sunday's Paint With Me Live. My name is Brittany Lewis. I'm a professional graphic designer and illustrator, and Sundays is the day that I work on my dream project, the Cosmic Gateways Tarot. And this week, of course, we're back at it. We're going to be working on the Four of Wands, which is the card that I've been working on quite a lot lately, just because I don't have the next set completed so that we can start on those, but also because there's so much to do on this one particular card. But before we get into what we're going to get into, if you guys would do me a huge favor, if you would like to support me in any way, shape, or form, one of the quickest, easiest, and freest ways to do that is to hit the thumbs up. That helps me out a whole lot. That lets YouTube know that you appreciate the live streams, that you like them, that you like watching me, that you like art and all of the things, and that people that like the same things you like might be interested in as well. So hitting the thumbs up helps me out a whole lot. I also have a goal of reaching 1,000 subscribers this year, so if you have not yet subscribed, please do me that solid. That helps me out a whole bunch. That's a good way to support this channel as well. Another way, just to take it a step further, is if you like the art, if you appreciate the artwork that I create, there is a website linked in the description below where you can buy all kinds of things, from journals to canvas prints to posters and all of the things, and I'll show you what that looks like here. So once you go on to the website blewisarts.com, there's actually going to be a pop-up that will offer you free shipping on your first order. So from there, you can choose between all of the categories, or you can browse individually. I have books, I have journals, t-shirts, posters, and I have canvas prints, and everything except the canvas prints ship out next day. So the canvas prints do take a little bit of time because we make those to order. So as you order them, we get them prepared for you so that you have something that's not been sitting for a while. You know, you'll get something fresh and new and just for you. So that is one way that I would wholly appreciate you guys supporting, if you would like. Just to show you what some of the journals look like, I have a couple here with me. They look a little something like this. So I have a few that are tarot themed. So this is the Hermit, for those of you who may not have seen the Hermit yet, or may be new to this particular project. This is just a little blank journal that I have and offer. This is my sample, so it has a little sticker, but yours will not, of course, have the sticker. This is one of those. I also have it in Judgment as well as the High Priestess. And it looks like this. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, if you want to just have a little piece of the Cosmic Gateways Tarot now, that is one of the best ways to be able to own that before the deck is released. All right, so let's get into it. So I'm back on this Four of Wands, and I actually had every intention in the world to finish this particular aspect, and by this particular aspect I mean the leaves in these trees, before today. However, because they are so sort of detailed, and I'm off, or sort of including a lot of details, I have not had an opportunity to finish them yet. So we're just gonna pick back up where we started. I like this because it reminds me a lot of those old cartoons from the 30s and 40s, like the old Tex Avery and the Looney Tunes, where they had the really nice painted backgrounds and then they would have like the animation on top. That's kind of what this reminds me of. So the only thing about it is that because I'm using a reference for the leaves, it's very easy for me to get it to look exactly like the references that I'm using. However, when it comes to the people, I'll have to sort of add a little razzle dazzle so that they fit within this space. So sort of similar to the Hermit. Now, of course, the Hermit was based on a reference that I had very similar. This is one of the cases where I got extremely way too dangerously close to the original reference, but I was able to change it up just enough so that it became, of course, my illustration. But in this, I did the same thing with the leaves. So we have these really nice articulated leaves, right? And so I had to make sure that the figure, although he is a stylized figure, had to make sure that he was he matched the scenery, right? So I have that challenge for myself when it comes to this particular card. But we're just gonna jump back in now. Again, when I'm doing these types of elements within an illustration where I am heavily guided by my reference, I am not looking to get it exact, right? I am just looking to copy the shapes, and then the shapes and the colors, and the shapes and the colors tend to lend themselves to a specific look. So that is what I'm going after, and I think I'm succeeding in that pretty well. So I hope you guys are having a great week this week, or have had a great week this week. Shout out to UPL. Thank you so much for being in the chat. If I miss you in the chat while we're here, don't forget to say hey. I'd love to give you a shout out and love to know that you are here. If you're watching this live or the replay, I appreciate you for being here for any length of time that you're here with me. And again, don't forget to hit that like button because it helps me out a whole lot. But I do appreciate you guys. So lately we've been talking a lot about goals and pivoting and all of the things that are associated with sort of going after your dreams, especially from the lens of being an entrepreneur, and how to navigate the space when you are having sort of an ebb, because life and business is all about ebbs and flows, right? So the flow, there are going to be times where things are in the flow state and they're working out the way that it should and everything is sort of clicking into place, and then there are going to be times where it's not. Right? And so to me, in that time that is not sort of clicking into place, of course, it's always a great time to look into reevaluating your position, reevaluating your goals, sort of redefining what success means for you. And then too, this is a perfect time. Hey, CRS Creates. I'm happy to see you on this Sunday. Go ahead on. Happy to see all of you guys. Thank you so much for stopping by. So sometimes when you get into those sort of ebb states, right, where things aren't necessarily clicking into place, where, we're in sort of like currently in this really strange economic time, to me, this is the perfect time to be able to dream. So while you're pivoting, while you're sort of looking at what's not working, try to think about the things that you actually would like to try, the things that you would like to do, and start working toward those goals. But what happens when you do that, right? And maybe you share your goals, or maybe you're sort of just bringing it up in conversation, and the people that you're talking to, hey, the Slick 93, okay, come on, chat. I'm so happy to see all y'all. Let's go. So what happens when you sort of find yourself in a space where you're sharing your goals, you're sharing your dreams, you're thinking out loud, you're sort of painting this picture of yourself in the future, and the people around you don't necessarily see that vision? What do you do? Right? What do you do with that? Some people will say, well, don't share your dreams because that'll happen. Sure enough, that does happen. And it has happened. I would say it has happened in some ways with me as well. I've experienced a little bit of that. But what do you do when you're in an environment where people do not necessarily see the vision? You have these grand ideas, you have all this thing, these, dreams and things floating into the atmosphere, but the people around you do not see it and don't feel like it's worth the time. What do you do? One of the things that I do, and this may be, I don't know how to frame this, right? But one of the things I do, first of all, is to lean into my own solid foundation of confidence, right? Right? You have to sort of make peace with the fact that not everyone's going to get it. And that's perfectly okay. And a lot of times we'll do things and we'll sort of have these interests and we'll have these dreams, but nobody around us is doing anything, right? Or the people around us may not have the exposure, right? Yeah, say F them. Listen, CRS, you gonna get me cutting up. I can cut up on Wednesdays. I'm gonna try to do right on Sundays, but that's the sentiment, right? You cannot let other people's sort of limitations in themselves, their projections of their limitations, determine how you best move forward. You have to be very confident in your ability to succeed in whatever it is that you do, right? So, great example of this, I would say, was the Cosmic Gateways Tarot. Now, I've been fortunate enough that I've been talking about wanting to do this for so long that the closest people to me are like, you know what, go ahead, girl, because you got it, right? But sometimes you'll have people who may not, just may not see it for you. They may not understand. Maybe they have a certain way of thinking. Maybe they think that you have to follow a certain path to reach the success. And very much like CRS said, you gotta say it. If them, right? To me, I use it as a mode of motivation. It's like, okay, if you don't believe in this, that's perfectly okay. That's your business, right? But I'm going to use that as fuel. Watch me work, right? That's kind of how you have to approach it. Watch me work. Watch me sort of turn this and even if it doesn't sort of reach the plateau that you want to reach it to, if you make mistakes along the way, that's okay. I'm at least sort of going after something that the people around me may not have the vision for. What they say in centers, no vision. Right? You got no vision for it, and that's perfectly okay, right? So the main thing when you run into those kinds of people is just, or those kinds of situations, and a lot of it may be well meant, right? They may have very great intentions about it. They may not want to see you get hurt along the way. They may have had their own failures in their lives, and they don't want to see you go through those same things, and that is valid, right? So they may have those they may have good intentions, right? But within that, you sort of have to, you can't let other people's opinions determine how you best move forward and how you define success for yourself. So in pivoting, in times like I said, now where things are sort of all over the place, everything's being kind of dismantled. To me, this is the perfect time to sort of take those chances, at least from a research perspective. Even if you don't take action, like to actually complete a goal, at least start working towards that goal. At least allow yourself to daydream within that space. Allow yourself to think bigger and higher, regardless of what your current present situation looks like. And so that's kind of what has been going on with me. Of course, it's always been like that with me. I don't know what it is. I'm always regarded a very reserved in person, right? I guess a lot of people are like that, that are sort of in front of people. They do very well speaking in front of people, but like in person, in their personal life, they're very reserved. So I'm very reserved in person, right? So for a lot of people that comes off as being shy, I don't really consider myself to be shy. But what I will say is that no matter what room I'm in, right, no matter what personality people have access to at that time, I'm always very, very confident in whatever it is that I'm doing. And I don't care how good or bad it is, right? No one can tell me in that moment that it's not working, because I enjoy it. A great example of this was I did long time ago. I did a blue portrait, and I remember showing somebody real close to me, and he was like, "Why would you do it in blue?" And I was like, "You know what? You may not see the vision, right?" But I believed in myself so much that I was like, "I'm just gonna try it. If it don't work, it don't work." You know what I mean? But I want to express myself in this particular creative way, and it ended up working and selling. That it was a painting that you guys can go see on this particular channel right now, that I painted within a day, and I sold it maybe 2 weeks later, right? And then that person sold it again. So that particular painting, that chance that I took, is still making money for people, right? So I've always sort of, I guess that kind of comes with being an introvert and living in your own bubble, but also just having the confidence of being yourself, being authentic, enjoying the things that you like to enjoy, regardless to how other people feel about it, right? You have to be very, very confident in yourself. Also knowing that nobody knows what they're doing, right, adds to that, because where people can project sort of from their own experiences, you have to realize nobody knows what they're doing, right? We're all just trying to figure it out. So what may not have worked for one person doesn't mean that it won't work for you. So if anything, just try it. If you make a mistake, that's life. Life is full of mistakes. Again, life is full of ebbs and flows, but at least you tried it, and hopefully in trying it, you've learned something through the process. So every Sunday, you guys get to see me work on this dream. I don't know anyone personally like that I can call up on the phone that has created a tarot deck. I don't know anyone who has published like a book, or I don't really know anyone personally that I can call on the phone other than my clients who like have websites and businesses and things like that. So sometimes it can be a very lonely road because you don't have those people in your circle, but that doesn't stop the show, right? You know what I mean? Everybody has their own walk in life. We all have our own obstacles. We all have our own lessons, and all of the things has to take place, but you get to choose how other people's opinions affect you, right? So when you don't have people in your circle, you don't have people who see the vision, see it enough for yourself where it don't even matter, right? So I woke up earlier this morning, and that was on my mind because I had a conversation a few days ago, and it just reminded me that, again, everybody's not going to see it. Now, with that, sometimes it is best to keep things to yourself. It depends on how strong those opinions are and how much weight they have in your life. Sometimes if you know that you're surrounded by people who don't see it, right? They only see life the way that they've been living and however long they've been living. And sometimes when you present those things and you present challenges to them, you present a new perspective or a new way of thinking, they may not even have the ability to understand or visualize or imagine something other than what they're used to, right? So we can have grace in that space. With that, sometimes it's just not worth bringing it up, right? You know what I mean? You just have to do the work in silence and let it show up for itself. But if in the event you start to share your dreams with people around you and you run into those naysayers or those people who are like, you probably shouldn't do that, unless it's just something like I don't want to say stupid, but like something that really you need to hear, right? Because it may like obviously be a bad idea, and that happens sometimes. I ain't gonna say everybody's idea is a great idea, because it's not. But if it's coming from a place of you shouldn't do that because I tried it and it didn't work for me, so it ain't gonna work for you, or we don't know nobody who does that because we live in a specific area, or we grew up doing it one way. Who are you to do it a different way? If it's coming from that particular kind of space, you can't let that dictate how you move forward, right? At the end of the day, we all have our own lives. We all have our own paths to follow. And so it's really just sort of up to you to believe in yourself enough to go for it. Right? All right. So for those of you who are new here, the Cosmic Gateways Tarot is one of those such projects. It's one of those things that I had wanted to do for a very, very long time. And it took me a lot of bumping my head. It took me a lot of avoiding it. It took me a lot of getting over my fears to actually start the project. So I started this project in 2019. And October, November or so, late 2019. Come on, CRS, she says, preach. Come on now. I started this project in 2019. It's 2025. So even in this time, right, 2019 to 2025, I have watched a lot of different decks come out. I've watched a lot of different people put out projects. I've watched my peers succeed and to grow and to do things. And in that space, it can sometimes feel like, oh my goodness, I'm not working fast enough, or I am not sort of achieving that goal at a pace that, I'm not keeping up with my peers. You know what I mean? I'm not getting to the place that I want to be fast enough. But again, everybody has their own walk. So sometimes comparing yourself can be sort of a little bit of a trap, because we can look around, right? Online, people are presenting the things that they want us to see. But we can look around ourselves and we can say, oh my goodness, all these awesome things are happening around us, but we're not taking place, or I'm not able to capitalize on that because I'm still working on the Cosmic Gateways Tarot. To that, the way that I approach it is to say that everything happens in divine timing, right? So my goal was to have this thing done a couple years ago. But life the way it life, right? And so in that, what I have learned just sort of in hindsight is that things work out in divine timing. And I have gotten comfortable in the space that this is just going to take as much time as it's going to take. Right? This is one of those projects where, especially now with AI being a thing and people sort of leaning very heavily into that, and the sort of instant gratification mindset is at an all-time high, where people are thinking, well, if I start a project, I think I saw, and I'm just a tangent just a little bit, I saw someone say that they were approached by a client who wanted to have a children's book, and they was wanting to have 10 to 15 illustrations, and they wanted those illustrations done within like 2 weeks, which is ridiculous, right? So that is sort of the mindset that a lot of people have. So even in that, taking 6 years or working on a project 6 years can be a little bit nerve-wracking, right? Hey, Draw Sketchbook, come on, chat. Come on, y'all. So glad to see everybody. But taking 6 years can sometimes feel a little bit scary, because I'll have those moments where I'm having like imposter syndrome, like who am I? It is taking me so doggone long. Let me show you something. I've been working on this for like the last 4 live streams, and when we do Wednesdays, usually we go for like an hour and a half to 2+ hours. I've been just on this particular aspect of the picture, so it's taking a while, right? With that, again, it's just a matter of being okay with it taking as long as it takes. So sometimes we can get off into projects. Sometimes we can set goals for ourselves. And in our grandiose thinking, we can think, because we're used to that instant gratification, we can think that, okay, I'm going to start this and I'll be done 3 months from now, or I'm going to be done 2 weeks from now. And it may take you a little bit longer. Within that, just be very comfortable with the fact that it is going to take as long as it's going to take, right? And in that, there is power in that, right? I can take my time with this particular project, because that means that for each card that I create, for each story that I tell, I can be extremely intentional about it, right? I can sit and paint 1,000 leaves and it takes me 24 hours of work time to do it, but I know that in the end, it's going to have a huge payoff. It's going to be so much worthwhile. Just like this journal that I showed you guys earlier with with the Hermit. This is one of the cards that I finished in 2020. Of course, I made it into a journal and all that, but this is one of the tarot cards. This took me forever and 3 days to do, right? But looking at it, I can see the quality of it. Same with the High Priestess. The High Priestess was one card and became something else. So having that patience and having the okay with, or just sort of working on myself and being okay with it, taking as long as it's going to take, is something that I think we have to adopt because things that used to work are not working anymore, right? And any small step that you can take towards your goal, to me, is a step towards victory. So if you're going out there chasing your dreams, right, and you're watching other people chase theirs, and for them it seems to be like an overnight sensation. Overnight sensations typically take about 15 years to get there. Right? We see people blow up what seems like, again, overnight, but we don't know all of the long nights that they spent working on their craft. We don't see all of the sort of mental breakdowns that they have, all of the small victories that they have before they get to the place that they want to get to. So have grace for yourself. Show yourself grace. Take your time. Like I said, for me, this seems like divine timing, because if I had finished this deck and been ready to print at the beginning of the year, I'd been hit with a huge tax called the tariff. And that tariff would have cost me at the beginning of the year, I think it was like 125%. So if I had said, okay, I'm going to purchase these decks for $8,000 out of China and they're going to ship it here, they would not release those decks to me unless I had paid 125% of the total that I already spent to have these created. So again, everything sort of works out the way that it's supposed to. Just give yourself grace, take your time, whatever it is that you're doing, and try not to compare yourself, try not to compare your journey to the next person, because nobody knows what they're doing. Right? Nobody has an idea. So it looks like it's going to autosave. So I'll show you guys just a little bit about what the Cosmic Gateways Tarot looks like. So again, I started this project in 2019, late 2019. And prior to this, it took me about, I would say, 3 or 4 years or so to get started. Right? It was something I wanted to do because I was very active in it. Doing divination is just something I really enjoyed to do in my free time. And I was like, you know what? I'm having a hard time finding the deck that I resonate with. And so there was a void for me. There was still a void in the marketplace of spiritual imagery and card decks and all of the things, candles, all of the things. Right? So I was like, I really am having a hard time finding a deck that I like. And for me, reading tarot, reading oracle and things like that, it's very important to find something that you can see yourself in, because it makes it easier to read, right? So it makes it easier to identify the problems within the cards as you're interpreting the images, if you can kind of see yourself in them. I couldn't see myself in them. And in the decks that were available that sort of spoke to my demographic that were out there, they all sort of had this struggle energy. They all had this very heavy, some of them had a good ancestral like wisdom to them, but for the most part, a lot of them had this very heavy struggle energy. So I was like, you know what, I'm at the time I was doing okay. I was doing conventions and things like that, but I was not wholly satisfied with the art that I was creating. I had cultivated an audience around fan art because I did a lot of comic book conventions. So many people were meeting me through that avenue. And I was creating nostalgia-based fan art because that's what I could identify with, right? I wasn't seeing like Show Enough in print, and I wasn't seeing, who else would I do, like Bruce Lee and things like that. So I would just create what I liked. I would create what I grew up with. I would create things that I wanted to see, and so I built an audience around that. But within that space, although I was creating the stuff that I could identify with, I wasn't feeling wholly satisfied again with the work that I was creating, because I felt like I was hiding some part of myself through the work that I was creating. I wasn't necessarily expressing myself to the fullest. I wasn't creating the images that I wanted to see and that I wanted to use, while at the same time not being able to find a tarot deck that I liked, an oracle deck that I could see myself in, and all of those things that was happening sort of simultaneously at the same time. And for whatever reason, it did not dawn on me until a little bit later. I was like, hold on, maybe I could make it, right? So I would put out little things. I think 2017, I started a coven series. It was during Inktober. Instead of inking them, I had like sketched them. So I was like, ink can take too long. So I would sketch a coven of witches. So I created this coven that will probably later become a coloring book because I have so many of them, right? So I was like, okay, I'm gonna throw this out there, right? Or I would do a siren character, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna throw this out there. Just little pieces of myself that I would, test the waters with, because for whatever reason, the opinions of the people that I had sort of attracted to me weighed heavily on whether or not I would fully step into myself. I was scared I was going to lose followers. It's just the honest truth of it. I was scared I was going to lose followers. I was afraid that I was going to lose business if I dived into the project or the thing that I really wanted to do. So around 2019 or so, sort of having this real mental struggle, right? Because as an artist and someone who loves the art and who loves to create and who loves to express myself through the work that I do, again, I was not satisfied with what I was putting out, and I was trying to get all of my ducks in a row before I took the leap of faith into this project. And I was like, okay, if I get this grant, doing this mural or whatever the project was, then it'll be easier for me to start this project, right? If I do this thing, it'll be easier for me to do this. So I'm thinking to myself, or really creating limitations for myself to say, okay, if this is not done, then that means I can't start this. It wasn't until nothing worked out, right? For the whole year of 2019, I think I did a convention, the Memphis Comic Expo, which is one of the conventions that I do every single year, except this year I did not. But since 2014, I always did this particular convention. I used to travel and all that. So I was like, okay, 2019 is here. I have been denied grants. I've had projects fall through. It was like a series of events of things that was not happening the way that I wanted it to happen, because I was trying to sort of again, stack all my chips up, right? Get myself prepared to jump off into this thing. And really, I was just procrastinating because I was afraid to do it. So November 2019, and I'll say October because I actually found the original of the High Priestess. She started off as the Chariot, and I didn't realize, because I had been working on this again for 6 years, I didn't realize I had actually completed a version of this that looks like the Chariot, but I wasn't happy with it, and that was in October. So, okay, October comes around, I'm starting on this project, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to put it out there, right? Afraid that people are going to burn me at the stake and judge me. And you just make up all kinds of excuses not to do a thing. Just because we're so worried about what other people will think, and we're allowing other people's opinions to dictate how we move forward, right? So I was like, okay, I'm going to put this out there. And I think the very first post, it was like, okay, fun fact, I love tarot and this is something I've been wanting to do. And so it's been that primarily ever since. That's the main sort of art that I post and share ever since. But what I will say is that once I sort of took that leap of faith, the thing that I was afraid of happening didn't happen, right? I was afraid that I was going to let down this whole group of people. And I was like, oh man, I got people that come to conventions and they're telling me that they coming because they want to see me. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what are they going to say? When they see this other sort of art form that I'm interested in, if they sort of see a different part of me, again, being an introvert and being someone who's naturally very reserved, it was very difficult for me at first to sort of show a part of myself that had otherwise hidden, right? Or share an interest that nobody except for the people who are very close to me knew that I had. And so I created again this whole narrative around fear, around I procrastinated the thing because I was afraid of what people would say. And it was not until I actually did the thing anyway, I just sort of jumped off the cliff and did it, that I started to attract you guys, you know what I mean, in the chat, that are coming to watch me talk 90 miles an hour while I talk about the thing that I liked. I started to attract people who are on the same wavelength, right? We have something in common, whether it's the appreciation of the arts, whether it's the appreciation of tarot, whatever that thing is, we're sort of drawn together. And so I say that to say, sometimes when we have goals, we kind of create this sort of story in our mind, this sort of set of fears, this set of obstacles, but it's all stuff that we're sort of making up in our minds, right? And when you have people around you who don't necessarily see that vision, that can kind of play into those self-doubts. But if you just try it a little bit, right? Even if it's just researching to see how you do a thing, even if it's just sort of finding out whether or not people would like it, or whatever the thing is that you do to take that first step, you'll begin to attract circumstances, you'll begin to attract teachers, you'll begin to attract information to you to help you fulfill that goal, but you have to take that first step. So again, for me, it was like, I'm going to procrastinate, right? And all of it was just because I was scared. All of it was for the years leading up to that. That whole year of 2019, again, when all of my projects were sort of falling through and things were not looking the way that I wanted it to look. Of course, I was still had an audience, right? Still had people, again, who would come to conventions. And this always blew my mind. They were like, we came just to see you. And I was like, what? You have those things. regardless to all of that, once you sort of really step into you, whoever that is, whoever you are, once you start to bet on yourself and begin to try to do the things or lean into the things that you love, that you're passionate about, that you just want to try just to try it, stuff starts to click into place. Right? It's amazing how that works. It begins to click into place. And to that point, anytime after I started, within the 6 years, anytime I would refocus my attention on, okay, this is going really well, and as a result of it going really well, I got all of these people who want to hire me for their projects. So now I'm focusing on those projects, which is great. But after those projects are done, now I'm chasing more projects instead of focusing on the thing that brought those people in to begin with. It went right on back to the way that it was 2019, right? Because I lost focus. Because I would say, okay, let me instead of working on having faith in the thing that I'm doing, that is going to bring the opportunities, the people, the audience, the attention, or whatever the thing is to me. If I just work on this, if I just kind of stay the course, instead, let me focus on chasing, and so I can get all of my ducks in a row, right? It just goes backwards. So I've had. Now 6 years, it'll be 6 years next month. 6 years of experience in bumping my head along the way, right? As I sort of go after this thing. But in that time, I never stopped, right? So I think the least amount of cards I did was 2023. I think I only designed one card that year. In 2023, I was the busiest I had ever been in terms of like doing graphic design and illustration projects for my clients. But in that, I was the most underpaid I had ever been. I was probably the most dissatisfied with sort of the way things were playing out at that time that I had ever been. But it was the busiest, right? I had clients and all of that. But it wasn't until 2024 when I said, okay, look, we did one card last year. We need to get back to this project, right? And I set aside time. I think it was June 30th, 2024. I was like, listen, we're going to do a live stream. I don't know how this is going to go. We'll just do it one time to try it and see how it is. But I'm going to do this because I need to work on this deck. And if I say I'm going to go live, I probably should do what I say I'm going to do, right? And in that, let me work on the thing that I want to work on. And so that'll help me hold myself accountable. And it's been going ever since. So like I said, I'm so happy to see you guys in the chat, right? It just made my day. Because it's just a testament of me saying, okay, I have to intentionally set aside time to work on the thing that I want to do. Right? There's always going to be something else to do. There's always, for those of you who have kids, there's always going to be kids. For those of you who are in school, there's always going to be school. For those of us that work, there's always going to be work. There's always going to be something else going on in our lives, right? But you have to intentionally set aside time to say, okay, Sundays is the day that I work on my dream project, right? Wednesdays is the day if I got something else to do, I'll work on it during that live stream. But if not, we're gonna go back to working on this dream project. And so you have to become intentional about that. I had to become intentional about it because anytime I was like, all right, let me focus back on getting these ducks in a row, right? It's like things will go haywire, and I'm like, all right, universe, I hear you. Tired of getting my ass kicked. Like it's time to focus. Let me get the Cosmic Gateways Tarot back done. So I've been working on it ever since. And again, I'm so happy and thankful to have you guys here. Whether you're watching this live or the replay, I just hope that sort of witnessing this project ignite something in it, if it ain't but one of y'all, right, that goes for it, that sort of goes after your dreams and things like that. Just from watching me, I think that's sort of is the purpose of this, right? Again, to hold myself accountable. But if I can inspire one of you guys, and that just does it for me, right? And I don't care how old you are, right? Sometimes we can kind of get in our own heads and say, well, I'm too old to do such and such and so and so, and my time has come and gone. I do not care. I have an aunt who I love to death who told me she went whitewater rafting at 60, I think she said 63, 65, something like that. And I'm like, go ahead on, right? That's how you have to be. I'm 39 years old, turned 39 years old this year. I'll be 40 next year. I am still working on my dream project because, too, I recognize that the things that I was taught coming up to do, you go to school, you get a degree, you get a job, and you sort of follow this sort of step-by-step pathway, is the way that you succeed. But what I'm figuring out is that we have to sort of redefine what success means to us, right? So that's going to be a very individual journey. To me, success means that I get to do exactly what I love to do at my own leisure, at my own free will, at my own pace, and I get paid to do that, right? I get paid to sit and draw on the screen. I get paid to share with you guys. That's my idea of success. Share with you guys. What I love, what help encourage you guys and what you love. That to me is what success means. For you, it might mean I make $80,000 or $100,000 or $200,000 a year, but you have to define what success means for you and then take a chance on getting there. Right? Again, we grow up in environments where people may not be familiar with your idea of success. They may not be familiar with the thing that you want to do and the business idea that you have or the project that you have. And because of that, we can allow ourselves to sort of play into those projections. But if you just take a little bit of time, right, just a little bit of time to work towards defining what that success is, but also working towards that goal, you'll get there. I believe so. I could be wrong because I ain't got there yet. But I wholeheartedly believe so, and I don't think that there's anything or anyone's story or anyone's sort of obstacles that can sway me into thinking that it's not possible, because we see it all the doggone time. CRS says you're so inspirational. Thank you, girl. I appreciate it. Listen, I'm one of those types of people where it just came to me, right? So African American household. My family has been in the United States for hundreds and hundreds of years, right? We are products of the Atlantic slave trade. And so it dawned on me that some of the advantages that people have in life, right? Other cultures, whether that's immigrants, whether that's, white folks in the country, whatever it is, other advantages that people have, a lot of us did not have because we're sort of bouncing back from the effects of the Atlantic slave trade. I don't care how people say you should get over it or whatever the case is. I can see that, right? So I feel like as someone who is, as a group of people who are now aware of the impact of that, right? You have to have grace in not knowing what we're doing. I don't know what I'm doing, right? I didn't have that blueprint because we had so many generational disadvantages. So to me, to inspire people is like, okay, listen, I know we ain't come from too much of nothing, right? A lot of us didn't, but that doesn't mean that we can't get to something. You just have to define what that something is, right? And you have to believe in yourself. And you have to have grace on our parents who may not have known. They gave us the best that they could, whether your parents were super duper active or whether they weren't. They cannot give you what they don't have. So we have to go out there and get it. And if I'm learning it and I can share it with you guys, that makes my day. Right? So I came over here earlier today. I was talking to my son. I was like, you know what? I don't know that I feel like streaming today, but I was like, I'm going to do it anyway. I was like, well, come over here anyway. We're going to figure it out. We're going to keep working on these leaves that I've been working on for the last 3 weeks. It's taking so long, but we're going to keep on going. And hopefully sort of inspire somebody to just step out there. Because again, we have, and just speaking for myself, being an African American, being someone whose family has been in the States for generations upon generations upon generations, and knowing parts of that history, right? Grandfather who picked cotton. I had a grandmother who was raised by her siblings because her parents passed away. All of these disadvantages that are sort of a generational thing, I still feel like it's something out there for us. You know what I'm saying? So hopefully we can find it together. I hope we can. I feel like it's our time. But in that, because it's such a generational thing, it is very easy again to sort of fall into the trap of, okay, the people around me have never seen this happen to anyone we know. Right? You may have had some families where some of us as millennials are like the first generation to go to college, right? Not to say me because my dad went, but for him, he was the first in his generation to go, right? Or maybe his mom was, or whatever the case is. Before a lot of people, they're the first generation to do certain things or to hit certain milestones or to go through, certain goals and victories and all of that. They're the first to experience that. And so with that, the people who are older than them may not even see it for them. You know what I mean? Your cousins who grew up a certain kind of way may not see it for you, or the people that you went to school with may not see it for you, but you kind of have to see it for yourself, because why not you? You know what I mean? I think that is the thing that a lot of mediocre people have, is the confidence to say, well, why not me? It don't matter if they mediocre. And y'all know who I'm talking about. It's a lot of super duper mediocre people who are out here living it because they have the confidence. Now, that confidence may have been ingrained in them over generations of time. Of course, we have a different kind of fight, right? Being of a certain demographic. But why not you, right? Why not me? Why can't I sit and do a tarot deck? You know what I mean? That I wanted to do because I couldn't find one that I identified with. If I can't identify with some, I know there's somebody else who can't. So maybe I can tell our story through this particular project. And so that's the kind of mindset that you have to have. For those of you who are in college, maybe you're the first of your family to go to college. Maybe you're the first to get your master's. Maybe you're the first to get a doctorate or whatever it is. Why not you? You know what I mean? So you kind of have to have that mindset. Sometimes it can feel a little delusional because you could be like, okay, I'm going to go after this goal. But again, sometimes things don't click into place at the pace that you would like for it to, right? Or at the sort of, you may not have those opportunities presented to you that other people may get. But at the same time, you got to keep cooking, right? 2023, I did one card. That was the Page of Swords. I did all these other projects and things like that. Now, in that, I said that 2023 was absolutely the busiest year. I had a whole lot of obstacles that year in terms of sort of readjusting and reevaluating how my business worked. But within that, things worked out the way that they were supposed to do. And even though I had that one car, I bounced back that next year. I was like, okay, let me get back to what I was supposed to be doing and sort of reignite this sort of desire to have it, because I'm still not finding the thing that I want in the marketplace. So sometimes we have to be the ones to make it. Why not you, right? I don't care if you grew up in Clarksdale, Mississippi. I do not care if you in, South Memphis somewhere, for people who are here in Memphis. I don't care if you grew up in East Lake in Chattanooga, Tennessee, or whatever hood or neighborhood or suburb or wherever you grew up at. And you're seeing people who are sort of have a certain limited thinking. That doesn't mean that you have to have that same thinking. You have to kind of bet on yourself. All right. So what am I doing? I am actually just sort of, again, picking up shapes and things like that within this card. I don't know. Sometimes you guys can watch. I know when we watch it on the phone, it's a little bit small. So I'm going to zoom in real good and close to this, so you guys can see exactly what it is that I'm doing. I am not trying to draw super detailed information in these leaves. They're just shapes, right? I'm picking up colors from my reference, which is helping me out a whole bunch, because it kind of helps create the illusion of shadow and light and things like that when I zoom out. But I'm just doing shapes. I'm just drawing in shapes and wiggles and squiggles, right? But when I zoom out, because this is meant to be put on a card, those shapes sort of help our brains interpret this as leaves. So it kind of gives a really nice realism, right? This is a card. Speaking of, I want to show you just how small this is going to be. All right. So this is the size of a tarot card. This is the strength from this project. This is the strength card. This is a pretty small card, I would say. So when I'm doing a lot of the details, I have to keep in mind that it's going to be about this small, right? So the main thing to focus on when I am creating these cards is contrast. So I want to make sure that things pop where they need to pop. Things are sort of in the distance where they need to be. So this is strength. This is the size of a typical tarot deck. All right. This is a test print of the Queen of Cups from the same project. Now, this is going to be a little bit bigger than your standard tarot card, which is the strength. This is the standard card. This is the actual size of the card is going to be. It's going to be a little bit bigger. I did that wholly because I like the size, right? I like the size. I don't think I knew at the time that, I didn't pay no attention. I didn't know at the time that tarot had a specific size, but I did have the Crow Tarot, which looks like this. And it is a size that I like. So I was like, well, you know what? I love how this deck shuffles. So I want to make my project this size. I find out later that, of course, there is a standard size. And, of course, I've been kind of keeping that in mind as I design these cards, because in the event that I'm unable to get it at this custom size the way that I want it, the images are created in a way that they do actually scale down really nicely to the standard size tarot. So this is strength. Now, as comparison, I'll show you what an oracle card looks like. Most oracle cards are about the same size across the board. This is an oracle, and this is the size of the Cosmic Gateways Tarot. So just as tall as an oracle card, but a little bit slimmer, right? So this is the Cosmic Gateways Tarot, and this is from Animal Spirit Oracle. So there's a little bit bigger. This oracle is a little bit bigger than Cosmic Gateways Tarot. But that's what that looks like, right? So I do this, these test prints. I do this because it helps me sort of stay on track and visualize the goal, which is something that you guys can do. Now, as you're working on goals, again, I've been working on this. It'll be 6 years next month. So I've been working on this for almost 6 years. And then it, of course, it pushes you to sort of get past your own sort of limited thinking. Again, going back to people around you. And I'm not saying it because I have a super supportive network around me. I don't want to make it seem as if people around me aren't supporting the project, because they absolutely are, for sure. Right? But just sort of, sometimes you can create a narrative in your mind where you create these limits and you create these sort of false expectations for yourself, or you just sort of make these negative stories within yourself. Sometimes it gets a little bit difficult to push forward for 6 years on a project when you're watching other people put out things far faster, right? So one of the ways that I navigate that is I actually will print out some of the cards. So this is one of a few that printed out. This is, of course, the Queen of Cups, and I did a whole like actual official order test print of these, like they're blank, and it says I printed these July 2021. I do that because it helps me visualize the product. So anytime I'm having those sort of moments of imposter syndrome, anytime I'm feeling like, who the heck am I? You know what I mean? Brittany from Tennessee. Who the heck am I to put out a project on my own, right? Who am I to sort of go through this process? I'll grab some of these cards and I'll be like, hold on, this is an actual real thing that came from a thought, right? That I interpreted into pixels, because I'm drawing digitally, so it's all pixels, that I made into a physical object. And that's magic, right? That is magic. And so in doing so, that kind of helps me sort of, remotivate myself. Now, of course, I don't have as many of those imposter syndrome moments these days. I think that happened early on. I would say 22, 23, of course, a couple years into the project. But again, just sort of making peace with the fact that things are going to take as long as they take, just so long as you're making small progress, right? Small progress is better than no progress at all. As long as you sort of stay the course and show up and just be yourself and tell your own story and, share your passions and just enjoy the process, it's going to be all right, right? But I'll do that. I'll print out test cards. Just because I want to see what the colors look like. Like, I want to see what it feels like when I show it. I don't think I've only printed like 20 of them out of, I think we have 30. I keep going back and forth between 32 and 36. I think it's 36 of them. I have 36 cards completed. I have printed out 20 just to test them, just to shuffle them, just to feel it in my hand. And that helps sort of motivate me to continue the process, because I do have days again where, not lately, we've been on a roll since we've been streaming, but I have had days where sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes I don't know if it's going to pay off. And then I'm like, girl, child, girl, please, you're going to be all right. And that confidence kicks back in. So it's going to be okay. If you have days like that where you don't know whatever it is that you're doing is worthwhile, it's worthwhile. Yes, it is. You're going to get something out of it. And just look at it as, no matter what happens, I'm going to get something out of it. Whether that is a lesson, right? Whether that is the opportunities, whether that is the money, whatever your goal is, something good is going to come out of it, right? That's how I look at it, and that's how I want you guys to look at what it is that you're doing. So again, I hope you guys are having a great day. So again, shout out to PL, CRS Creates, and the Slick 93 Draw Sketchbook. I'm so happy to see y'all, man. I promise you, because I swear to goodness, it wasn't until like maybe 2 minutes before I started streaming, I was like, I don't know that I'm going to, but let me go ahead anyway. I'm sitting here, I got the stuff pulled up. Let me go ahead and pull it up. So having you guys here makes it worth the while. I'm so glad to have you. It just made my heart smile so big. So I thank you so much. Now we are, I think, at 792 subscribers, and I do have a goal of reaching 1,000. I started this page in 2013. So there's a pattern. Like, things take me a minute. It takes me a minute. So I'm at 792. I would love to have 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So if you guys have not yet subscribed, please do me that solid. And if you would like to see more, of course, hit the notification bell, because anytime I go live, it'll pop up on your screen, or anytime I post a video. So I know that I've been working towards getting some tutorials done for those of you who are are interested in learning how to do digital art. And now earlier I mentioned all this is pixels. That's exactly what it is, right? These pixels are being interpreted into sort of lines and shapes and things like that. So my goal is to be able to create some really easy entry-level tutorials for you guys who are interested in digital artwork, so that no matter what program it is that you're gravitating towards, whether that's Procreate or Krita or Clip Studio, which is my personal favorite, or Photoshop or whatever it is, it'll be kind of easy for you to jump in. So PL said, I really enjoy watching you create. I'm not an artist, but I have learned so much. Oh, PL, thank you so much, man. Y'all gonna make, I ain't gonna cry on this live stream. I'm not gonna do it. But I do appreciate you guys so much from the bottom of my heart, because again, this is sort of the combination of me conquering the fear too. Just getting on live. If you guys, for those of you who are super curious and interested, just want to be nosy, on this channel, organize the videos from oldest to newest. It took me a long time just to show, just to put my voice on the video, right? So I did time lapses. I would do acrylic paintings mostly, and then it sort of transitioned into the digital work. I would do acrylic paintings, I would do ink portraits, I would do digital. Of course, it became more sort of digital forward, but it's because it's less mess, it's less for me to have to pull out and do and deal with, as opposed to paints, because I have to pull out the paints, I have to clean the brushes and go through all the motions and all of that. So I've leaned very heavily into digital art in recent years, but took me a very long time to sort of feel confident enough just to do a voiceover, right? And then I think in 2016 I had won an art contest, and I had gotten a like a $200 gift card from Jerry's Autorama, and so I had purchased a whole bunch of art supplies, and half of that stuff half of those stuff I still have, I just have not used as much as I had planned to that year. But in that was the first time I had shown my face. And then fast forward a little bit, I think when maybe 2021 or so, I did a video sort of reintroducing myself, because I hadn't been on YouTube in a while. Reintroducing myself and introducing this project. And that was the first time it was just like a standalone me in front of the camera type of video. So to work my way up to a live stream and have you guys tell me that you enjoy it and how inspirational it is, y'all gonna make me cry. I ain't gonna do it today. I'm not gonna do it, but I do appreciate you guys so much for being here. So yeah, this is definitely a combination of fear. This is a culmination of me sort of getting out of my own head, which happens a lot. Sometimes we can kind of talk ourselves out of things, just again because we think that we're afraid to be seen. That's what it is. We're afraid of being seen, and we're afraid of being judged, and we're afraid of whatever the fear is, ridicule, or whatever the case is. More often than not, I would say, not to say it don't happen, because we see it across the internet all day, every day. More often than not, you're not going to face that, right? So whatever you put out is what you'll get back. So, hey, Black Zetsu, I'm so happy to see you. Come on, chat. Come on. I'm so happy to see you guys. So whatever you put out is what you're going to get back. So I just sort of had to kind of get over it. And two, I remember I was in, you guys know Kimmy Creates. I don't know if you guys are familiar with her. She does the cooking videos and stuff like that. She had a class where she offered, where you could come in, and I think it was all about like your online presence or something like that. And I remember asking her, I was like, how you get to be so confident, you know what I mean, on camera? And she was like, you just have to do it. She was like, whatever it is that is holding you back from feeling confident, you kind of have to address that and just kind of get over it. For me, the easiest way that I've been able to sort of get over a fear of being seen, a fear of being vulnerable, is just to kind of do the thing, right? Now, of course, you guys aren't so in my life, but in terms of like me sharing super personal details or anything like that, but in terms of like talking to you guys, sharing some of my fears about art and being vulnerable in that way, I just had to do it, right? So sometimes just the easiest way to get over a fear, the easiest way to kind of get out of your head is just to do the thing that you're afraid of doing. So I think last year, earlier this year, no, I think it was last year, produced a video that was all about procrastination, and I talked about how a lot of times, again, we sort of create these stories in our minds, right? And we kind of give ourselves these obstacles that were otherwise not there, in a way, as an act of procrastinating, doing the thing that we're afraid of doing. But all of it is just centered around fear, right? So someone said that you kind of have to get past the cringe of it. That's kind of what it is. You have to kind of get past the just thinking that whatever the worst case scenario is going to happen. You kind of have to flip it on its head and ask yourself what's the best case scenario. So for me, y'all have absolutely demonstrated for me the best case scenario for just sort of getting over or challenging yourself to walk through a fear. Having y'all show up, right? The way that y'all have showed up and kicked butt this day is a testament to, like, you know, it's gonna be all right. Just be yourself, right? All right, so I think I am running off at the mouth. Or I have ran out at the mouth long enough today. I'm going to call it a stream Wednesday. If you like a little more chill live stream, CRS no, because she be there, man. I tell you what, if you like a little more chill live stream where we just listen to music and we work together, we study together. I'm usually super active in the chat, so if you're there, show up. I'm in that chat. So if you would like to do that with me Wednesday at 12:45 p.m. Central Standard Time, join me for Bring Your Own Project Live. Now, again, those streams are set up just so we can work together, right? So I can hold you guys accountable. You can hold me accountable, because if I say I'm going to go live, it's probably best I do that, right? So we hold each other accountable, whether you're studying, whether you're cleaning up your kitchen, whether you're at work, whether you are studying, for your degree or whatever the case is. Join me on Wednesdays for Bring Your Own Project Live. And again, Sundays, we'll be here. Now, I'm not going to sit and tell y'all this lie and say that next Sunday we'll start on a new card. We'll probably very likely not. So we'll be back on the on this. We'll be back on the Four of Wands. There's so much to do on this particular card that I could probably be working on this for a good long while. So with this, I'm going to show you guys my reference image. This is sort of what I'm aiming for. I don't want to be exact because, of course, I've already changed aspects of this picture, but this is sort of the idea that I have. Now, I created this image in Affinity Photo. I just slapped together a couple of pictures, right? I didn't try to like blend it in or do any fancy Photoshopping work or anything like that. I just needed a baseline idea of what I wanted to create. And of course, I came into Clip Studio Paint with the 3D models, posed them in the way that I wanted them to be, and then I sketched it, of course, and have been working on it ever since. So there is a lot to create on this image, right? So with that, we'll probably be here for a while, just until I get the next set of cards going, and then I'll save this for Wednesdays. But we have a lot, right? So join me next Sunday for Paint With Me Live at 3:30 p.m. Central. Again, if you're watching this live or the replay, I really, really appreciate you guys for being here. Thank you so much for showing up in the chat, man, y'all. I'm gonna have to pour out a little something for y'all. I swear to goodness I am. So I really, really appreciate you all for being here so much. Please do hit the thumbs up for me. That helps me out a whole lot. If you would like to purchase things like journals, so here are a couple of journals, of course, that I offer. I also offer witchy things journals, so if you're into that kind of thing, I have these as well as posters and canvas prints and all of the things on my website. All of that will be linked down in the description below. So again, I hope you guys thank you so much, and I hope you all have a happy, creative, and prosperous week. See you Wednesday. Peace.